This is Coffee with the Summerland and Aaron, and it's June 7th, 2024 report. Today it's 58 currently, a nice chilly 58, and the high today will be sunny in Summerland today. So they're having that's pretty much a dream day at 5 degrees. Good day to hit the beach in Summerland, the old favorite,
Yeah, 70 degrees was about perfect. I think we hit 77 as the cool last night
here
in Orville.
Well, that's chill. Well, it's semi-chill. At 77 is like kind of hit like 80 plus here yesterday, maybe even 90. I can't remember, but we've been going figuring out the rivers like 5 miles away, and it just sort of down a little from the cabin. So it's the Blanco River, and after work and chill out, and it's not a really, it's running pretty brisk, but it's not super deep. So there's some rock, a little rock dam to try to hold the water back, but it's comfortable. It's not icy. It's surprising how rock shelves that are kind of like black. Can't remember what they are. They're like hill. I think that's what it is. So, anyways, the river's kind of warm, which is nice. It's not chilly hot. It's just like a comfortable chill temp, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's I was watching something. I think it was the American River, and it was like a warning because the American River is, a little bit deeper and is coming from the snowmelt. And if you're out in the sun and you quench yourself in the river is actually kind of cold. And so they were warning against not necessarily hypothermia, but just going from hot to cold can cause issues.
Yeah. The San Juan River up game, because it's coming directly off of the Continental Divide up there. So they may, we may hit. It's interesting how it fluctuates in how heavy it's running. I think they do a radio to tell you what the amount of like CFMs or something like that per hour, per minute, because up here the river rafting, like it's not intense rapids, but it's like tourist style. So there's a bunch of little independent river rafting companies that take folks down from town and float down and then pick them up and bring them back up. So that's
all right. So it's not quite lazy river tubing float. It's not the level 5 wear your helmet and be an expert. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah, somewhere in between. Give people probably a thrill because it is running. There's a couple spots where there's definitely like not intense, and I think they did have, it might even have been a friend of mine, father, that for a while that he would help towns to improve their rapids for the tourists, essentially for the rafters, to kind of create little valleys in the river to create these little wild ride aspects, I guess.
Yeah. Where was I at? Up there by Lake Isabella, by the Trail of 1,000 Giants. I forget what town it is up there.
Yeah.
But last time I was up there, it was season, so they had a bunch of rafts, lining up at this one little spot, and busloads of people were getting on these rafts to go down the river. That's something I used to do as a kid, as far as like the lazy river, but nothing so far as rapids.
Did you ever see that movie Into the Wild? That movie Into the Wild?
I don't think so. No.
Part where the guy basically he did like an adventure, and gets a canoe, I believe, or a kayak, and he goes up to the station and he's asking the guy going down the river, and he says, well, there's a waiting list that you sign up and be registered to go down the river. So he's like, okay, there's an opening in like 2 years or something, the way the river. And then he said, well, if you want to jump on a group tour sooner, but when you want to go down alone, you got to be registered. So he just out, and then he took his little kayak down there and he had zero experience and no helmet, and he went down and actually somehow made it, through all those, and I think he floated down to Lake Powell and then ended up like I think it comes out in like the Gulf of Mexico or something like that. It's like yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty cool movie about a guy who goes on. He ends up in Alaska eventually, and he unfortunately passes away in Alaska because he thought off the grid. But he got trapped by a river up there that was running too heavy. So as a young man on an adventure, so to speak. But a book and a movie, Into the Wild. So anyways, yeah, trips, man.
Yeah, that's crazy because if you're not aware of nature and you just go adventure, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
We saw that. I think you saw that post with Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers. They had that T-shirt that used to say "Go climb a rock, Yosemite," and some flea went up to Yosemite to go climb a rock together, and they brought their cans of food and the bus up there and went on an adventure and learned a few things being out when you're not geared up properly and to nature. It can quickly bite you in the rear end, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you're like me and are glamour camping with a camper, you got to make sure and have fuel for your generator, make sure your AC is working, especially someone like me who can't handle the heat.
Yeah.
I got out of the kitchen a long time ago because I can't handle the heat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, dude. That's crazy. Thankfully, we're here. I think some people do, like businesses have air conditioning for their merchandise, but homes up here usually don't have it. I mean, maybe building, but up here it's the summertime. I think we are breaking heat wave. Is it kind of like starting off that way for you guys too?
Yeah, it's been everyone's been talking about. I think we broke a record the other day. Yesterday it was 109. And so that's kind of early. I mean, you can kind of expect 109 during July, maybe August, but to have it the beginning of June, a lot of the locals are telling me, "Wow, it's a hot year. It's a broken record as far as the daily high temps."
Yeah, I noticed like last summer, I got into a flow. I think where I was definitely trying to ride in the morning because it just got so hot that it was, there's a certain time of the day where it's ideal not to be outside, I guess, or in the direct sun, freaking with a chainsaw or something,
Yeah, that's kind of my method of operation. Get some stuff done between around maybe 10 or 11 in the morning. No. And, wait until 6 or 7 in the evening to when it starts cooling down to even attempt to go outside. I was telling a friend yesterday or the other day, I'm like, yeah, I'm from going from the house to the car and from the car to the grocery store. That's about all I could take as far as the out. You can see how bright the sun is just already bearing through the window. It's barely
Wow.
7 o'clock here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I opened all the windows last night because it might have been like 55 degrees. So it's cool in the evening, or yeah. So later in the evening, it does. If you have the windows open in the house, at least where we're at, it'll cool the house down. And then in the morning, close the curtains and try to hold that coolness inside the cabin. And time ago, my old stepdad had some insulation put in the cabin because it was only like, maybe it was 1996 or something like that, and it had pretty basic as far as its buildings. Probably no insulation. I remember I lived up there in 2002 wintertime, and in the morning, like the toilet, the water would be frozen. So, but it's changed a bit since he put insulation in. It was a game. So, yeah.
Do you have like a fireplace or a potbelly stove? Or?
For sure, we have a wood potbelly stove in the living room. So that's our source of heat during the last season. I had an awesome neighbor who I called up and made friends with, and he's like, "Yeah, you can go. There's a couple of dead trees that are already toppled over, and you're welcome to those." And then there's one cut down, and so it's like I mean, Summerland, we had a bunch of eucalyptus trees, but we weren't collecting wood in Summerland very much, except driftwood for fun to build forts.
No, that's awesome. Potbelly stoves are amazing.
Absolutely.
I like them because you can like build your fire and then close all the flues off so there's low airflow, and it'll keep it cool. If you put a nice big chunk of wood, that coal will still be there in the morning.
Totally. So it's like, what do you call it? It's true off the grid style. And you think, if you do in theory, stack the wood, all that stuff, that you're kind of saving, but it's a trade-off because you actually have to work for it. You got to work the wood, split it, all that stuff, and then of course you're making the fires, but it feels like you're working for your heat. Just paying for propane or something like that. So that's the other side of it.
We're up here, and where we were at down on the coast. That's what we use is a little, fireplace, a little potbelly kind of stove. And the girlfriend up here, she's like, "Yeah, this is so nice when it's cold. I just flip a switch. No, getting kindling ready, and
I know,
making sure you got enough firewood in the back, or like, of course, when it's stormy and rainy, that's when you got to go outside and bring in the firewood.
I know, right?
So just having that luxury is really nice.
It's huge. I totally get it. Yeah, it's pre-think your morning routine. Like in the evening, you bring the wood in, ready to go in the morning, so you don't have to step outside in freaking sub-zero temperatures to gather the freaking pack. It's still a process, So
yeah, you get snow up there at your cabin then during the winter, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. It eventually, and it stays outside and doesn't melt off. The roads a little bit will, because we drive the road and it packs down the snow, and then sometimes you just get it off. So the road can be clear, but on the sides of the road there'll be snow that stays there. Yeah. And then
so I imagine they have in town they have like road services where they plow the roads, but up to the ranch, I imagine at least once you get on that private road, I assume you're responsible for that yourself.
Yeah, and there's like a handful of ranches. I want to say I think there's like, more than 10 ranches up there on our road. And so a lot of there's some old schoolers, like where it's like grandpa and the son and the wife, and they've been there for 40 years or what, and those guys have it down to a science. I mean, they have a tractor in the yard, plows on them and stuff. And then some of the new people that have moved up there in the past, let's say 30, they have trucks with plows on them. So, thankfully we have like 5 tractors, and we have, 5 neighbors with badass plows on their truck. So they all are like, it's like a hobby for them, like a fun time. They don't think of it as work. They just, no, let's go do the road. So they like do the buddy system and freaking, you take the left, we'll rock it out. So, for old guys, it kind of makes you feel like you're busy, so that's.
Yeah. Have you ever had a 4-wheel drive truck, Jericho?
I have one now. I have an old 98 Chevy 4-wheel drive Z71 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know it was a lot of fun for me, but now, even though it's still kind of exciting, it's like just the bumping around, it just wrecks my neck and back, and it's like, oh gosh.
I feel
when I was young, I could go up that hill and go flying around and taking jumps, and now it's like, okay, I put it in low gear and just crawl around. If it's been a couple of years since I've had a 4x4, but yeah.
And we what is it like? My friend told me about Jeeps are narrower and more apt to roll.
I think I lost you, Jericho. You froze on me. I get to wonder what happened to you. Maybe he'll come back. For now, I guess I'll share a little bit about 4-wheel drive. And I guess it was a 72 Dodge when I was living up on the ranch, and that was a lot of fun. Oh gosh, Jericho, where are you? Let's do the refresh thing. Okay, we'll see if this works. Okay, we lost Jericho, so I'm here by myself. Here's Jericho. Yay!
Hey, for a second. School, we're running. Can you hear me now? I'm back.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's about as exciting as I get nowadays. Am I over 50? Yeah. I'm at the top of the hill, Jericho. Yeah. I'm just sitting up there. I'm afraid to go over the hill because it's all downhill from there, and I don't know if I got brakes on my.
Yeah, exactly. God. So I'm what is it? I'm working on Grandpa's project and making progress. I got more slip sleeves. Thank you, Scott. My friend Scott sent me a pack. So I got a pack of 500 here. So I got a fresh pack of ammunition to work with for the archiving. And when we ran out of the plastic sleeves, we went to the working on the comic book, cataloging the comics. So, there's
nice. And you sent me a bunch of pictures this morning, Jericho.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at them. You want to go, you want to switch gears and go over? Because I don't know, whatever it is, I I
Yeah, it's
totally
funny stuff. It's
enjoy.
all yeah. It's mostly Wilbur comics. It's funny stuff.
Okay, let me see if I can get
So
this
yeah,
pulled up correct and
yeah, no worries.
showing the there we
There we go. Yeah,
go.
so that's these are like from the 1940s and 50s. Um, it's Wilbur comics, and Katie Keene was often featured in Wilbur. So it's really like, to me, like almost like this is what kids did when they were before television was really huge. This was a sort of like, to me, like almost like Happy Days, that with what's his name, the guy who played was it Cunningham, um, Richie Cunningham from Happy Days, the
Ron
TV show.
Howard.
Ron Howard. Yeah, so Ron Howard was in a little TV show called Happy Days, and it was really all about like the 1950s sock hop, like freaking life in the 50s. And there were, of course, the Fonz with hey, with a thumbs up and all that stuff. So this is just like good times for kids, reading comics, and it was definitely like all about the boys and the girls having their like moments and having good times and having fun. That's actually, I think, Wilbur number 5, and that was the first appearance of Katie Keene. And so these covers are, yeah, that's Wilbur number 5. That's the first time Katie Keene appeared in a comic book in terms of like a single pager, or maybe it was a multi-page story, but that's when she first appeared. So before Katie got her own comic book, she appeared in Wilbur as like a little featurette. So yeah, these are classics. The art, there's various artists who drew this stuff, but sometimes they'd have some consistency because it was published through Archie Comics, which at the time on some of them it says MLJ Comics, and MLJ Comics became Archie later. So it was like a transitional time for them within their company. And yeah, so these are called Golden Age comics, and some of them are called pre-code comics. So it's before the yeah, that's an MLJ, so that's an old one. So these are like pre-code, which is like before the rating system that they developed and enforced to the Comic Code Authority, they were called. So they sort of regulated the comic industry at some point to keep the bad comics off of the newsstands. So it was an interesting time for comic books, because it was like going through an evolution of sorts, and of time and space, with in accordance with what the adults felt that was good for kids to be looking at. Because these are definitely more, Archie was always really kind of like a Disney kind of a company, like a real do-gooder, G-rated type comic book. So this is definitely before, this is probably like,
Uh-huh.
so way before the Fabulous Fury Freak Brothers, because I bet the Freak Brothers came out maybe in like the late 60s, early 70s. They were definitely in full swing with Freak Brothers, because that was like called alternative comics. But these are like what's called Golden Age comics. And then I think it went from gold to bronze. And then there's probably 5 different eras of comic books. So this is definitely like the very beginning of comic books. And so these artists made a living working for Archie Comics. Like my grandfather worked for Archie. And so, they scratched out a living working for this publisher, Archie Comics. And they had a good time because it was a lot of humor. It was really humor driven and action, romance. That's pretty much what's going on here. It's like kind of like a family sitcom kind of a vibe, or instead of watching Married with Children or the Flintstones or something like that, you were reading comic books as a kid. So
Yeah, I'm just going through these and it's just blowing my mind.
Right?
10 cents. What can you even get for 10 cents anymore?
Right? I know, I know. And there's oftentimes the boy and the girl, like the young man, the high school age kids, and it's really kind of based around. To me, it's almost like a little like cute, romancy vibe. So I don't know what TV shows are doing that now. I mean, maybe Twilight or I'm kind of out of touch with the youth in terms of what they're watching now on television. I think it's also switched to the internet, and they're watching short TikTok videos of humor based, a lot of humor and action and fun on TikTok. So this is sort of like obviously way before TikTok. This was like this was your social media back then. This is how you kept up with what's up, back in the day.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I was looking through as I'm scrolling through these all quickly.
Yeah.
Um, this one here kind of caught my attention because here is a new star, Katie Keene, the pinup
Yeah.
queen. And I don't know if you know the history of the pinup girl,
Yeah.
um, but in a sense, for the time, it was a bit risque per
Oh,
se.
totally. Yeah.
And you could even see like this one kind of caught my attention. You see anything you like? And he's not looking at anything on the shelf now, is he? He's like, wow,
Exactly.
what? Yeah, yeah, I see what I like here.
Yeah. Right. I love that stuff. It's so funny. It's like I honestly, at moments I'm like, wait, I don't know I know what I'm feeling, but am I supposed to be feeling that? Like, so it really taps into the teenage vibe, and like it's like becoming an adult, like the transition from being a kid to being a teenager. Wilbur, I like
Wilbur seems to be a bit of a player.
right, exactly. So just that whole thing is just classic. So really kind of like it leads you through, it's like, what is it called? Like a mirror of your own world, of your high school world or something. But also too, for kids, what I realized, I had a friend of mine who worked for it was called Girls Life Magazine. And Girls Life Magazine was for girls maybe age 8 to 13, 14 years old, but before they read Glamour or Vogue. Um, so this is like for kids that oftentimes may have been not even in high school yet, but they're approaching that age. And so it's like almost like, here's your future, here's what's up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole interest in girls kind of did start right around that junior high school. I mean,
Yeah. I
here we
mean,
got a date here, 1949.
yeah.
So this
Classic.
is coming up on 80 years old,
Wow. Yeah. It's
75 years old.
right. Yeah, you're right. That's about the same age as my mom. So it's crazy because the age of these things it's like older, as old as our parents, or in some cases older than our parents. So it's a real like a window to the past. Like this is the window to the past for sure. This is
Yeah, because you
probably
can kind of see it says right here, hot buns. Okay. And he's ordering a peach with strawberry frosting, yet he's kind of pointing at the girl. So it's like you're talking about the PG rating or the R rating or to get
yeah,
this approved reading
yeah,
type thing.
yeah.
You could just kind of tell they're bringing in things as risque as possible,
yeah,
yet keeping it tame as possible. So keeping it within the parameters of.
right. Exactly. Which is interesting. I guess that's always the way it's been played since then. It's always been played pushing the envelope, like with South Park. Those guys push the envelope way over the edge, and these guys sort of were doing the same thing. And then when the code came along, they had to slightly sharpen it up, like um, perhaps hold back a little bit, or they would get censored or edited. I heard there was a guy that worked for Archie Comics that his job was essentially editing. So they'd get the artwork from the artist, and then they'd have to like use whiteout or lower the hemline, or make the skirt longer, or little changes to sort of like make it more subtle or something.
Yeah, I
So,
guess
anyways,
the dress codes and stuff. You can see that some of the early ones, they had the skirts above the knees, and here you don't
right.
see many
Yeah,
female knees. There's one in the background, just barely the knee.
yeah, right. Classic. Good eye, man. Good eye on that one. Classic. Yeah. So, it's just like fun stories that draw you in. And I personally, I'm a definitely a buy a book by the cover kind of guy. So, what's the coolest cover that you can see? And for those that collected these things, um, if the golden age comics are definitely now more rare because they're very old, and they're big time on the collectible market. So
I'm noticing some little marks on these 0/4, 3/5.
yeah, those might have been my grandfather's notes. I noticed that he did start collecting, in when he was up in age, he started to collect his own work again, because when you're in the zone and you're doing your work, back in the day, it was kind of like, hey, moving forward, moving forward. But you weren't really necessarily collecting your own stuff, I guess. Um, so yeah, these are sometimes purchased at comic conventions, or sometimes, thankfully, some other friends of his would send him some comics occasionally. So yeah, classic. It's definitely a window to another time before our time, way before our time. I mean, this predates us by like freaking 30 years or something in terms of our life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is so cool because Wilbur, who everybody remembers Archie, right? Archie
Yeah,
series. This looks
yeah,
like here Katie Keene, number
yeah,
58.
yeah,
But you could just tell from the print, and I think we went through these yesterday, but you could
yeah,
just see the evolution
yeah, for
of,
sure.
of just art, how risque this one is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So
her
that's like,
her her shoulders are showing, her knee is showing,
yeah,
her skirt's
yeah,
all the way up by her hiney ho, and then you can see these later ones. All the skirts are kind of knee level. And
yeah.
I
So
guess it's funny to talk about it in today's modern sense with, um, all the stuff that goes on
how
there.
far we've how far we've come. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. That's cool. That's
No, this is
it's
like
an interest.
it's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just a great window to the past, to show how wild people were in the 1940s. You know, in just that they were really like just like doing a television show, except it was in a comic book form, and they were trying to push the envelope as hard as they, push it out there as far as they could, until there was that backlash, and they had to create the Comic Code Authority, and then they became like, that's nowadays, like I think they don't have the Comic Code Authority anymore, so it's more of a free create as heavy and risque as you can, or desire to, and then it probably ends up being in the comic book shop, where they probably have a certain section for adult comics, that whole thing. um,
Yeah, I remember going to the record store and some of the music, parental advisories. And then of course nowadays, I mean, you can call it what you will, but it's basically a form of, I'm not going to say
yeah,
the word. How shall we say it?
yeah,
A
rating
rating
system, yeah,
system. Let's just
because it
rate.
became a big deal.
It's a
Yeah,
rating
we talked about
system.
that yesterday with the like with D. Snyder and the backlash, and then they did come up with those stickers where it said parental advisory. That's exactly the same thing as the Comic Code Authority, where they're giving the parents a heads up, like here's a fat sticker on it in case you were wanting to protect your child from Run DMC or or freaking Twisted Sister. Here's an advisory because the lyrics, NWA, F the police, that whole thing.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to me because it's filtered. It really is. Reality is filtered through what is shown and in the media, especially now. I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously you're not going to be putting R-rated stuff on Facebook because it could be, seen as a certain way. And like with the gaming industry, video games, that's the big thing for kids.
Yeah.
And they got the ratings on the games now because, oh gosh, some of these games are pretty darn violent and pretty darn realistic. And so that's like the big thing is for violence, PG-13, excessive violence, or excessive. I don't know exactly the terms they use, but yeah, I mean, I remember when the first RPG role-playing game, which, like Katie King, that's a little paper doll.
Yeah.
You're role-playing, Barbie, we're role-playing. And so now it's all digital and we're role-playing, for jumping out of airplanes or, shooting each other up in these first-person shooters. And it does kind of make sense. You don't want to expose, a tender 5 or 6-year-old to grenades.
I mean, let their mind mature a little bit before. I mean, we're going back to the was it Wile E. Coyote and that dude, was it the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote smashing each other up and throwing rocks off a cliff and crushing the other dude. But that's what gets a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's product placement. I don't know if there's still an Acme company producing dynamite and all the stuff that Wile E. Coyote got through that Acme mail order company, but that's like a whole nother topic, I guess, because I remember in the back of these comic books, they had these buy now, whether it's hypno glasses or x-ray glasses or jumping beans or the sea monkeys. I know we had ordered some sea monkeys at one time, and it's got the little little jar, and you put the little powder in and you're like, and they turn into these little tiny things swimming around. You're like, it's sea monkeys. Funny thing, that South Park did that sea monkey episode too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I think about that and how that advertising in the back of comic books is now mostly in that Facebook feed, and it just the way the computer analyzes your actions and your likes and says, oh, I like pictures of rocks. I'm a kind of a rock house. When I see cool pictures, I'm like, oh, rocks, oh, crystals, oh, crystal art. And now all of a sudden I'm getting bombarded with advertising saying, oh, join this club or buy these amethyst crystals or whatever. And it's just kind of interesting to me because it's always, when we're talking about things like comic books or any kind of media, of course, there's a certain money that's paid to 10 cents for the magazine itself, but that magazine also made money by publishing advertisements.
You want to mention our sponsors today?
Yeah, we're sponsored by Katie Keene Fashion. And so if you're really interested in the new cutting edge fashion, why don't you send a picture and a description to Jericho there, and maybe he will put it in. Oh, Jericho. Oh gosh. Remember that thing that we started?
Oh yeah. The what's it called? The Summerland KIDS comic strip, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We gotta think about product placement in that. And I'd love to. I've been watching these comics go by that you're posting. I guess I've been jonesing for a little bit of collaboration on that. I don't know how long. How long does it take you to sit down and sketch one of those squares?
I want to get some. My friend Jason, who's visiting, is some good inspiration. He's pretty funny. So I have to produce. Get on the game, and then we can have some advertising squares so people can buy a square, or product placement, advertising, Summerland KIDS. drinking, what is it, like Hanson's natural soda or something like that,
That's a pretty good idea. I mean, it's more so I just enjoyed the inspiration
For sure.
as far as, because it helps me remember some of these stories
I know
that we
exactly.
lived through. Like,
Totally.
we haven't put them out there in public yet, but imagine if we get enough for a couple comic strips.
No, for sure. Exactly. I got to get back on because now that I'm back in town, formally back in town and back in the office and all that good stuff. And it's just all about like making time and creating, getting back to the art, because I'm trying to like, process grandpa's art, but I haven't had a lot of time for my own stuff. So that's the challenge. Therein lies the challenge of, dividing your time up according to, have time for yourself to create, because oftentimes we do get so caught up in the routine of work in a sense that it's challenging sometimes to find the time to break off on your own and do your own creative thing, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the mere fact that I could just imagine your workspace is piled up with boxes and you got a stack that you're working on.
For sure.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. When do you find time to clear off that and get into your zone?
That's what's up. It's all about the creative spirit. Another day, there's Kitty talking about creative spirits, big time. Well, cheers, man. Another episode of Coffee with the Summerland Kids, sponsored by Kitty Cats and comic books and all that good stuff,
Oh, yeah. Don't forget to smash that like button. Smash
the like and subscribe. Exactly. You guys have a good day out there. We're Coffee with the Summerland Kids.
Not for now.
Bang it out.